about the idea of that Benori Avri Barogel is going to take place when Mashiach comes, that is the revelation of Mashiach's times. Is going to be an elevation from Midos into Chachma, and therefore it's going to be split into 7, whereas the splitting of Yam by the Yam Suf, that's the level of the splitting of Malchus, because that's a level of Malchus which is elevating from Yad, the place of the Shvatim. So just like the Yam and the Beis Hamikdash was standing on the 12 cattle, which corresponded to the 12 Shvatim, the same thing there had to be Legoizi Yam Zorim, that he cut the sea into 12, because that's the aliyah from Bia into Atzilus, and then Shachat Atzilus into Bia. But when you're going from Midas to intellect, and then even higher than that, all the way to Hashem's essence, so you start off with the number 7 instead of the number 12. And then we spoke about that there are different periods in Mashiach's times itself. There's Ad Yavram Chavaya, that's one level. Then because it still has to do with Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. In other words, the separation between Yud Kei and Vav Kei. From Vav Kei, which are the Midas, you're going up to Yud Kei. Then there's another level, Ad Yavar, not Havaya. We're dealing with a level that's higher than Havaya. And then we're going to a level even higher than that, the level of Amzu Kanisa, the complete unity of the Yidden with Hashem, the way it is with Hashem's very essence. So because he just now introduced these 2 different levels in Mashiach's times, actually 3 different levels. So now he's going to say in general that these 3 different levels have to do with the levels of Mashiach's times itself, the different periods, the different eras that the Rebbe always speaks about. So again, page Yud Beis, line 16. Close in general, these are the 2 periods that will be in the days, in the coming of Mashiach. Mashiach, first of all, there are what's called the days of Mashiach after Mashiach's arrival. And then, the days beyond the era of Mashiach's arrival, but that's not so crazy above nature, the level of Olam Haba, the world to come. Both periods and both eras will come about through Mashiach. But what Mashiach will do in one is not the same that he will accomplish in the other. Initially will be the time of the meal of the Leviathan and the wild ox. Following that, there will be the time that's beyond and higher than a meal. Though the Leviathan and the wild ox are very elevated levels, it's still connected to the idea of a meal. As opposed to the time after that will be a time that's beyond eating, beyond the meal. So again, we see these different eras, that there will be the time of a meal that shows that it still deals with physical, whereas the time that says Olam Haba, the Chazal say Ein boy that doesn't have neither eating nor drinking. This means that there's a period of time that transcends that. That's the idea of the world to come. But rather there will be a period that will be no eating, no drinking, but tzaddikim are sitting and deriving pleasure and benefit from the ray of the Shekhinah. And the difference between these 2 eras is it's similar to what we see down here below by a human being. Shem Adam in a human being. Why is he called Adam? Because I'm likened to above. In the most highest power that the soul power that the person has, which is the power of the light, and there are 2 types and 2 ways and manners of the light. What he's talking about, the highest soul powers, he's talking about also the transcendent, the makifim, the soul powers. When we're dealing about the koiches pnimium, so Chachma is the highest of the Eser koiches nefesh, the koiches pnimium, the inner and internalized type of soul powers. But then on top of Chachma, there's the 2 levels of Ratzon and Tainuk. These correspond to the 2 levels of Keser, the level of Kitzonius HaKeser, the level of Pnimius HaKeser. These days, we only are aware of Hashem's will. That is the level that we have to do. Torah mitzvahs. We know Hashem's chokhmah and we know of Hashem's will. But then, when Lasud Lavi comes, it will be the level of Atik and Pnimius Atik, the level of the inner delight of Hashem. That the delight is in such a way that there's two types of delight that will become revealed to us and that we will therefore enjoy when Mashiach comes. The first type of delight is the sense and the felt type of delight. Top of Yud Gimel. That's the way the inner level of Atik Yoimin is enclosed in the inner level of Chach. In other words, when we know there's a special connection between the inner part of Chach and the inner part of the light, that's why when a person has a new insight, a new idea, and his mind fills with that flash of brilliant light, it's a very pleasurable experience, because that's the connection between the inner level of Atik that manifests itself in Chokhmah. The light has a special connection with the level of Chokhmah. But it's in a way that it is felt. The second type of delight is a higher level of delight. The essential delight that is not felt. To give an example of it, there's a type of delight that is caused by something. That's called also tainug hamurkav, that the delight is mixed in with something else. Then there's a type of delight that is so essential that's not even possible to divide and separate between the delight and what is causing the delight. The example of that is, let's say, for example, we said there's the delight that manifests itself in Chokhmah. So there's the Chokhmah that taps into and brings me the feeling of the delight. But then there's a higher sort of delight. It says that the highest form of delight is the delight in being alive. But nobody goes around with feelings of delight the whole time to stay alive. But still in all, delight, we know, motivates and directs all the powers. And the reason why a person, a healthy person, a normal person, is willing to forgo anything and willing to give up anything in their lives, which means all types of delights, just to be able to stay alive, again, under most circumstances, under normal circumstances, because the delight of being alive is more powerful and more essential and more core than any other type of delight. But it's not sense. A person doesn't feel himself delighting in being alive. Maybe when he's at the moment that he might be saved from some terrible danger, he might feel something of that, but even that, perhaps not as well. So these two types of levels of delight we will be in tune with and we will experience in the two different periods of Mashiach. First Yemais Mashiach, then Olam Haba. The same thing, the Ad Yaver versus Amzu Kanis. Let's see it inside line 3 on page Yud Gimel. This is what it says in the pasuk: Ad Yaver Hashem Ad Yaver Am, till your nation crosses, until it crosses the nation. Afterwards, he adds this. In other words, this nation that you have acquired. What's the idea of acquisition? Becomes totally one with Hashem's very essence. Then it's a time of Shabbos and rest forever and ever. It's above the idea of a sense. In the earlier level, we said that Ad Yavram Chavai is the level that goes up from Midas into Moichin, the Hey, the Vav K, into the Yud K. Then we said Ad Yavar Stam, that's other aliyahs, other ascents. And then Amzu Kanisa, that's where we reach a stage that's beyond the sense whatsoever. It's the ultimate menucha. Again, it's quiet. It's not the whole tumult of the delight and so on. But he says in line 8, the idea behind this is In the Mash'am, as Chazal said, there's no difference between present time and the days of Mashiach, only being enslaved by the government. In the simple meaning, it means that when Mashiach comes, the only difference in the normal running of the world will only be that Eden will be completely free, not beholden to the nations whatsoever. We will be gathered to our own country. We will have complete autonomy and freedom and so on. Anything else, nothing miraculous, nothing above nature. The guy won't, our enemies won't all of a sudden, I don't know, drop dead or whatever. Mashiach will fight the wars against them, but there won't be anything like, crazy above nature. So the Rebbe says what the Chazal mean, that there's no difference between the present time and Mashiach's times, only that we won't be enslaved to government, specifically before the resurrection of the dead. Then, before the resurrection of the dead, will still be finishing off the refinement of the sparks, will still be completing our avodah. Very interesting. This is sometimes the Rebbe says the Berurim is already done, but here's the way he's learning Pshat over here, that there'll still be some Berurim to be done even after Mashiach comes. Like it's explained in a different place. When Mashiach comes, there'll be also the perfect performance of the avodah of offering the karbonos. Concerning this, it says, Adam ki yakriv, a person that will offer, meaning since when Mashiach comes, will be the ultimate perfection of the level of Adam. Therefore, since Adam will be perfect, so therefore the karbonos that he brings will also be perfect, not like now before Mashiach's time. In the times of the first and second base of Mikdash, where as high as we weren't the perfection possible of Mashiach's times. So therefore the karbonos weren't perfect until Mashiach comes. Then the Rebbe takes from that. It's not just that karbonos will be in its most perfect way. This is understood also. This is the way it's going to be concerning other mitzvahs. Like it says in the Geras HaKodesh, but Chazal say the mitzvahs b'teils laws when Mashiach comes, the mitzvahs will cease. When will mitzvahs cease? When will we not be doing mitzvahs? Again, the Rebbe has different explanations about it, but just can we take it the literal at the moment? That's only after the resurrection. But for the days of Mashiach, before Tchias HaMesim, they're not going to cease. So therefore, obviously then, when Mashiach comes, the mitzvahs will be done then in the most perfect way possible. This is what it says. Behold, my servant will be successful, he'll be exalted and raised up and very high. That Mashiach is going to be higher than the level of Adam. Where do we see from this pasuk that his height is going to be higher than the level of Adam? The Adam who Rosh Tevis, Adam, David, Mashiach. Adam is Aleph is for Adam, Dalet is for David, the Mem of Adam is for Mashiach. In over here, in the pasuk, the letters are in the opposite or in a different order. It starts off with the Mem for Mashiach and then Aleph and Dav and Dalet, indicating that the Mem being first, that shows that in this period, the second period of Mashiach's times, it's higher than the level of Adam, not just the Adam Kiyakir, the perfection of Adam in the doing of the mitzvahs, but beyond that, the Koyal Azman Shalach HaGemara Berurim is referring to the time after the conclusion of the refining of the sparks. In other words, after the time of mitzvahs, after the time of bringing karbonos, Adam Kiyakri, because we'll be beyond that level of Adam. Ube'emet, in truth, like we said before, there's different levels of ascent, different levels of elevations till we reach the level of essence, the Tainuk Bilti Murgish, the unsensed and unfelt delight. Even after the resurrection of the dead, there'll be a sense. Like it says in the pasuk, they will go from strength to strength. So that is talking about concerning La'as and Lavi as well. Only after the many ascents, even after Tchias HaMesim, it will be a state and situation that is beyond all types of ascents. It will be, like you said, Shabbos and Nucha L'chayei Lamim. We will have reached the level of complete rest because we will be joined with Hashem's very essence, Zukha Nisa, that will be joined completely with Hashem. Top of your Daled, Ois Hey. That's what it says, like your days going out of the land of Mitzrayim, I will show you wonders. Though by the splitting of the sea was torn into 12 cuts. When Mashiach comes, it says that he will split it into 7. Still in all even the splitting of the 7 of the river is k'imei, says מצרים. It still has a certain similarity because it'll still be a sense, but it'll be higher levels of a sense. But and after that, after the simple pshat, k'imei says מצרים out of Neflois means that one is similar to the other. Then we go to the Zoyar's pshat that he said at the beginning of the Maimer, that there will be a pella in comparison to what took place in Mitzrayim. There'll be no comparison because when there's aliyahs, but this is higher aliyahs and this is lower aliyahs, so then there's a comparison. But if we reach a stage that's totally beyond aliyahs, then there's no comparison whatsoever. Line 6. After that, there's the explanation of the Zoyar that there'll be wonders, even in comparison to the miracles of going out of Mitzrayim. That's what it says, I will show you wonders. Nun plois, 50 wonders. Niflois can be divided into 50 wonders. Pella, it's a wonder upon wonder. Like it's explained to our Maram of Sfiras HaOmer, the significance and the idea of the number 50, that really in the number 50, there are 2 aspects to the number 50. The Koyal Sharanun, first of Shavuos, especially in the Mamarim of Shavuos, which is the 50th day of the Omer, which is not counted. So it says that number 50, and Nun Plois is the Koy Al Sharanun, it's going in the 50th gate. But V'Shar Hanun Gufi Yashnei Efani, in the 50th gate itself, there's 2 levels, 2 types of levels of 50. Harishon Kipisha Shaykh Memtas Hayom. First level, the lower level of the 50th gate, is the one that's connected and has to do with the 49 days. This is affected down here below through you will count 50 days. Because it says in the pasuk, in one pasuk it says you count 7 weeks. Another pasuk it says you will count 50 days. So that means that even the 50th day, which we technically don't count in Sfira, but it's something that we accomplish and we do because it's a level that has to do with the lower 49. So by us doing the lower 49, it's considered that we are counting as well the 50th because that's a level that has to do with the 49. And then there's a second type and level in number 50. That happens and occurs automatically. That's the 50th gate on its own. That it's completely uprooted and removed. It's beyond even saying Tispuru Chamishim Yom. It's impossible for us to even reach there through the counting of the 49 because it's removed from the level of the 49. All these different levels of the lower level of the 50th, the higher level of the 50th, it's still in the level of Keser. And Keser itself, if we want to divide between the higher and lower level of the 50, so we can divide it between the higher level of Keser and the lower level, Atik Yemen and Aracham. Atik Gufa, Wachiluk, and Zolsh, Rishonis the Atik, Lashavat Achtoinis the Atik, Hamluboshim Bar. And in Atik itself, it's the difference between the first 3 levels in Atik, meaning Chabad of Atik, and versus the 7 midos of the 7 lower parts of Atik, that those 7 lower parts of Atik become enclosed into Arch. But After all these levels, it's still not the ultimate. Like we said, there's Ad Yabram Chavayan, there's Ad Yavar Am. That's not the ultimate yet. There's still ascents and elevations and so on. Afterwards, we reach the levels the Hashem's very essence is beyond Kesser. All this will be in the future in the coming of Mashiach that came speedily. Initially, it will be a state and situation that there's no difference between the days of Mashiach, only the enslavement of kings, like we said before. Afterwards will be the period that the wolf will live together with the sheep, with the lamb. Well, the das haravid, according to the opinion of the Ravid, it will be so in the simple sense and not just a metaphor. The Rambam says that when it says that the wolf will live together with the lamb, this means that it's a metaphor. The Yidden are like a lamb of 70 wolves. We will live peacefully with the nations. That's what it means. But the Ravid counters and attacks the Rambam about it and says, no, it means literally that the nature of the carnivorous animals like wolves will live naturally, the physical wolf or the physical lamb. Then the Rebbe says, this physical change that seemingly the Rambam does not hold up, the Gam Das Rambam to even according to the Rambam, that's only a metaphor for the nations. When was the Rambam talking about it? That it's only a metaphor. It's because he was applying this to the earlier period, to the period of Yemoisa Mashiach, when the whole difference is, we said, just about being under the nation's rule. And there's no other miraculous thing. So therefore, you're not going to have the miracle of a wolf stopping to attack the sheep. But afterwards, it will be in a state that they will actually live the wolf with the sheep or the lamb in actuality. And the Rebbe says, this is, even though the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, Yad Chazaka, does not indicate this, but there's somewhere else where the Rambam wrote his very famous Igeres Tchias HaMesim, where he allows for that view, that it will be an actual physical wolf living together with the sheep. So he says, this is also seen and understood from what the Rambam wrote, the Maimer Tchias HaMesim, in his statement or his letter concerning Tchias HaMesim that he wrote, the Mashakos of Benegia La Yudim de La'asim, named Mashal Bechidam, that the fact that he wrote in Mishnah Torah, perhaps in other places as well, that the different supernatural promises of the times of Mashiach that he wrote, that's only a metaphor, it's only a riddle, you're not supposed to take it literally. The Rambam writes in the Geras Tchiya itself, in the Geras Tchias HaMesim itself, he writes that this statement that we made, this is not at all something that is conclusive and the final word on the matter, that it cannot be any other way. And therefore, the Rambam goes on to say, if you want to say that it's literal, that the wolf will live together with the sheep, so he gives it a certain limitation. He says, the Rambam brings a pasuk soon that this is a miracle that will take place only in the area of the Harabayis, of the Temple Mount. Like it says, the Chol Har Kochi, it says, Lo yareyu v'lo yashchisu, they will not do bad and they will not destroy in my holy mountain. So that means that any animals that come within the precincts of the Harabayis will automatically be so affected by this type of amazing revelation of the Beis Hamikdash that they will, at least for then, lose or be suspended their type of nature. So in other words, and it will be similar in their words that will be similar to what it says in Pirkei Avos, that when the Yidden were Oila Regel, so miraculously no snake and no scorpion hurt anybody. So we see this idea already took place in the first and second Beis Hamikdash, that the miraculous revelation of the Beis Hamikdash influenced its environment, that they could not hurt anybody. So the Rebbe says, even according to the Rambam, we could say this. Then we'll merit all the ascents. Over there, we will do like the mitzvahs of your will. We will study the inner part of the Torah of Mashiach, the Bias Mashiach that came to Bekar Mamish, and the coming Mashiach that came speedily in our day.